Session recording start ചെയ്തിട്ടുണ്ട്. Okay, we can start.
Yes, sir. So shall I start? Sir,
ഹലോ
shall I start?
പ്രവീണ അതെ രഞ്ജിത്ത് സാർ ഉണ്ട്. സ്റ്റാർട്ട് ചെയ്യാം.
Okay, sir. Okay, sir. Good evening, all. Hearty welcome to today's session of Comparative Public Law and Systems of Governance. Today is the second session. So, on behalf of the TDP program of LGRF, I welcome you, sir. You, sir, as well as all the participants to today's session. Today's session is on the topic separation of powers in India, UK, USA, and France. Before starting our session, we have a review on our former class on the topic of forms of government, presidential and parliamentary, unitary and federal by Nidhi Chakko, ma'am. Over to you, ma'am.
Good evening, everybody. അപ്പോൾ ഞാൻ രഞ്ജിത്ത് ചന്ദ്രൻ സാർ ലാസ്റ്റ് ക്ലാസ്സിൽ കമ്പാരറ്റീവ് പബ്ലിക് ലോയെ കുറിച്ച് ഫോംസ് ഓഫ് ഗവൺമെന്റ് സബ്ജക്ട് ടോപ്പിക് എടുത്തിരുന്നത്. അപ്പോൾ അതിന്റെ ബേസിസിൽ ഒരു റിവ്യൂ റൺ ചെയ്യുവാണ്. ഫസ്റ്റ് സ്ലൈഡിൽ പറഞ്ഞിരിക്കുന്നത് എന്തെന്ന് ഫോംസ് ഓഫ് ഗവൺമെന്റ്, ആസ് വി ഓൾ നോ, ദർ ആർ 4 types of governments. Namely parliamentary form of government, presidential form of government, unitary government and federal government. അപ്പം ഇതിലേക്ക് കടക്കുന്നതിന് മുമ്പ് നമ്മുടെ ഇന്ത്യൻ ഗവൺമെന്റിനെ കുറിച്ച് പറയേണ്ടതുണ്ട്. ഇന്ത്യൻ ഗവൺമെന്റ് ഹാസ് ഗോട്ട് ദ പാർലമെന്ററി ഫോം. പാർലമെന്ററി ഫോം എന്ന് പറഞ്ഞപ്പോൾ ബൈകാമറൽ ലെജിസ്ലേച്ചർ ആണ് നമുക്കുള്ളത്. പിന്നെ our government is a federal structure which has unitary features. അപ്പം ഫെഡറേഷനിലെ ബേസിക് സ്ട്രക്ചർ എന്ന് പറയുന്നത് ഫെഡറൽ ആണ്, ബട്ട് വി ഓൾസോ ഹാവ് unitary features, and we do have separation of powers between the branches, especially between executive and the legislature. പക്ഷെ അത് പൂർണ്ണമല്ല, പാർഷ്യൽ സെപ്പറേഷൻ ആണ്. ഇതിന്റെ ഒരു റീസൺ എന്ന് പറഞ്ഞത് എന്താന്ന് വെച്ചാൽ, ഒരു ബ്രാഞ്ച് മറ്റേ ബ്രാഞ്ചിനെ ഡോമിനേറ്റ് ചെയ്യാതിരിക്കാനും ചെക്സ് ആൻഡ് ബാലൻസസ് കൊണ്ടുവരാനും വേണ്ടിയിട്ടാണ് പാർഷ്യൽ സെപ്പറേഷൻ ഓഫ് പവേഴ്സ് കൊണ്ടുവന്നിരിക്കുന്നത്. പിന്നെ നമുക്ക് പ്രസിഡന്റ് ഒരു നോമിനൽ ഹെഡ് ആണ്. ഈ പ്രസിഡന്റിന്റെ മേൽ കൊടുത്തിരിക്കുന്ന പവേഴ്സ് എന്ന് പറയുന്നത് കോൺസ്റ്റിറ്റ്യൂഷൻ ആണ്. കോൺസ്റ്റിറ്റ്യൂഷൻ ആണ് പ്രസിഡന്റിന് പവേഴ്സ് കൺഫർ ചെയ്യുന്നത്. പക്ഷെ ഈ പവേഴ്സ് ആക്ച്വലി പ്രാക്ടീസിൽ കൊണ്ടുവരുന്നതെന്ന് പറയുന്നത് പ്രൈം മിനിസ്റ്റർ ആൻഡ് കൗൺസിൽ ഓഫ് മിനിസ്റ്റേഴ്സ് ആണ്. So moving on to the next slide. അപ്പം നമുക്ക് 2 type system of governance ആണ്. Governance at the center and governance at the state level. ഗവൺമെന്റ് അറ്റ് ദ സെന്റർ എന്ന് പറയുന്നത് ഹെഡ് ചെയ്യുന്നത്, സെൻട്രൽ ഗവൺമെന്റ് ഹെഡ് ചെയ്യുന്നത് പ്രസിഡന്റ് ഓഫ് ഇന്ത്യ ആണ്. ഹി ഈസ് ദ കോൺസ്റ്റിറ്റ്യൂഷണൽ ഹെഡ്. ആൻഡ് ദ വർക്കിംഗ് ടീം അണ്ടർ ദ പ്രസിഡന്റ് ഇസ് പ്രൈം മിനിസ്റ്റർ, the council of ministers headed by the prime minister, and ഇവരെല്ലാരും കൂടെ കൂടിയാണ് ദ ക്യാബിനറ്റ് ഫോം ചെയ്യുന്നത്. ക്യാബിനറ്റ് ആണ് ആക്റ്റീവ് ലോ മേക്കിംഗിൽ പാർട്ടിസിപ്പേറ്റ് ചെയ്യുന്നത്. പിന്നെ ലോ ലെവൽ സ്റ്റേറ്റ് ലെവലിലുള്ള ഗവർണൻസ് ഹെഡ് ചെയ്യുന്നത് ഗവർണർ ആണ്. ഗവർണർ ചീഫ് മിനിസ്റ്ററും കൗൺസിൽ ഓഫ് മിനിസ്റ്റേഴ്സും ആണെന്നാണ് പറയുന്നത്. പിന്നെ അടുത്ത സ്ലൈഡിൽ കൈൻഡ്സ് ഓഫ് ഗവൺമെന്റ്സ് ഫീച്ചേഴ്സ്, ക്യാരക്ടറിസ്റ്റിക് ഫീച്ചേഴ്സ് ആണ് പിന്നെ സാറ് ഡിസ്കസ് ചെയ്തിരുന്നത്. അപ്പൊ പാർലമെന്ററി ഫോം ഓഫ് ഗവൺമെന്റ് ഫീച്ചേഴ്സ് എന്തൊക്കെയാണെന്ന് വെച്ചാൽ, ആദ്യത്തെ ഫീച്ചർ എന്ന് പറയുന്നത് ഡ്യുവൽ എക്സിക്യൂട്ടീവ് ആണ്. നേരത്തെ പറഞ്ഞതുപോലെ തന്നെ നോമിനൽ ഹെഡും ഒരു റിയൽ ഹെഡും ഉണ്ട്. ഇന്ത്യയുടെ കേസിൽ നോമിനൽ ഹെഡ് എന്ന് പറയുന്നത് പ്രസിഡന്റ് ഓഫ് ഇന്ത്യ ആണ്. റിയൽ ഹെഡ് ഇസ് ദ പ്രൈം മിനിസ്റ്റർ. സോ നോമിനൽ ഹെഡിന് he has all the powers conferred upon by the constitution, but it is actually put into practice by the prime minister and the council of ministers. പിന്നെ രണ്ടാമത്തെ ക്യാരക്ടറിസ്റ്റിക്സ് ഫീച്ചർ എന്ന് പറയുന്നത് കളക്റ്റീവ് റെസ്പോൺസിബിലിറ്റി ആണ്. അപ്പം there are a lot of branches headed by ministers, and a cabinet, when it comes to the cabinet taking a decision, once they finally reach ഒരു ഡിസിഷനിൽ എത്തിച്ചേരുകയാണെങ്കിൽ each and every minister is equally responsible in taking that decision, and if any one person is responsible in a flop, in the entire cabinet will be but the entire cabinet will stand dissolved. പിന്നെ അടുത്ത പോയിന്റ് എന്ന് പറയുന്നത് ഇൻഡിവിജ്വൽ റെസ്പോൺസിബിലിറ്റി ആണ്. അപ്പം ഈ പറയുന്ന പോലെ കളക്റ്റീവ് റെസ്പോൺസിബിലിറ്റി പോലെ തന്നെ ഓരോ ബ്രാഞ്ചും ഹെഡ് ചെയ്യുന്ന മിനിസ്റ്റേഴ്സിന് ഇൻഡിവിജ്വൽ റെസ്പോൺസിബിലിറ്റിയും ഉണ്ട് അവരുടെ അഡ്മിനിസ്ട്രേഷന്റെ കാര്യങ്ങളിൽ. അതുപോലെ തന്നെ അടുത്ത പോയിന്റ് സാർ പറഞ്ഞതെന്ന് വെച്ചാൽ there is a close relationship between executive and legislature എന്നാണ്. അപ്പൊ ഈ പറഞ്ഞതുപോലെ പാർലമെന്ററി ഫോമില് the branches are not totally independent, they rely upon each other. അപ്പൊ അവര് തമ്മിൽ എസ്പെഷ്യലി എക്സിക്യൂട്ടീവും ലെജിസ്ലേച്ചറും തമ്മിൽ ഒരു ബന്ധമുണ്ട്. അപ്പൊ അതെന്തെന്ന് വെച്ചാല് any members, they have to be a part of the executive, they should also be a part of the legislature. അപ്പം അങ്ങനെയാണെങ്കിൽ മാത്രമേ ഈ ക്യാബിനറ്റ് ഫോം ചെയ്യാൻ പറ്റുകയുള്ളൂ. പിന്നെയുള്ള അടുത്ത പോയിന്റ് എന്ന് പറയുന്നത് പൊളിറ്റിക്കൽ ഹോമോജനിറ്റി ആണ്. പൊളിറ്റിക്കൽ ഹോമോജനിറ്റി എന്ന് പറഞ്ഞാല് പ്രസന്റ് ആയിട്ടുള്ള ഗവൺമെന്റിലെ ക്യാബിനറ്റ്, വർക്കിംഗ് ക്യാബിനറ്റ് എന്ന് പറയുന്നതിനകത്തെ മെമ്പേഴ്സ് എല്ലാവരും ഒരു പൊളിറ്റിക്കൽ പാർട്ടി എന്നുള്ളവരായിരിക്കും. അപ്പം അങ്ങനെയുള്ളൊരു ഒരേ പൊളിറ്റിക്കൽ പാർട്ടിയിൽ നിന്ന് മെമ്പേഴ്സ് വരുമ്പോൾ ഉള്ള ബെനിഫിറ്റ് എന്തെന്ന് വെച്ചാൽ ഡിസിഷൻ മേക്കിംഗിൽ ഒരിക്കലും ഒരു ഡിഫറൻസ് ഓഫ് ഒപ്പീനിയൻ വരികയില്ല, പോസിബിളി അറൈസ് ചെയ്യില്ല. പിന്നെ പറയുന്ന അടുത്ത പോയിന്റ് എന്ന് പറയുന്നത് സീക്രസി ഓഫ് പ്രൊസീജിയർ ആണ്. അപ്പൊ പാർലമെന്ററി ഫോം ഓഫ് ഗവൺമെന്റിലെ അടുത്ത ക്യാരക്ടറിസ്റ്റിക് ഫീച്ചർ സീക്രസി ഓഫ് പ്രൊസീജിയർ. ദാറ്റ് ഈസ് ഈ ക്യാബിനറ്റിൽ നടക്കുന്ന വർക്കിംഗ് or the processes should not be divulged into the public. അപ്പൊ ഒരു എന്തൊരു പ്രൊസീജിയറും ഫോളോ ചെയ്യണം, അല്ലെങ്കിൽ ഒരു ഡിസിഷനും എടുക്കുകയാണെങ്കിലും ഇറ്റ് ഷുഡ് ബി ഡൺ സീക്രട്ടീവ്ലി. പിന്നെ അടുത്ത പ്രസിഡൻഷ്യൽ ഫോം ഓഫ് ഗവൺമെന്റ് ആണ്. പ്രസിഡൻഷ്യൽ ഫോം ഓഫ് ഗവൺമെന്റിന്റെ ക്യാരക്ടറിസ്റ്റിക് ഫീച്ചേഴ്സ് എന്ന് പറയുന്നതിനകത്ത് പ്രധാനമായിട്ടുള്ള ഫീച്ചർ എന്ന് പറയുന്നത് സെപ്പറേഷൻ ഓഫ് പവേഴ്സ് ആണ്. സോ അൺലൈക്ക് പാർലമെന്ററി ഫോം ഓഫ് ഗവൺമെന്റ്, ഇവിടെ എക്സിക്യൂട്ടീവും ലെജിസ്ലേച്ചറും ടു സെപ്പറേറ്റ് ഇൻഡിപെൻഡന്റ് ബോഡീസ് ആണ്. ഇവർക്ക് രണ്ടുപേർക്കും ഈക്വൽ സ്റ്റേറ്റസ് ആണുള്ളത് അവരുടെ വർക്കിങ്ങിൽ. ആൻഡ് പാർലമെന്ററി സിസ്റ്റത്തിലെ കൂട്ട് പ്രസിഡന്റ് ആൻഡ് ഹിസ് സെക്രട്ടറീസ് ആർ നോട്ട് മെമ്പേഴ്സ് ഓഫ് ദ ലെജിസ്ലേച്ചർ. പിന്നെ if the president does something against the constitutional mandate, he can be removed by the legislature through impeachment. അതാണ് ഫസ്റ്റ് ക്യാരക്ടറിസ്റ്റിക്സ് ഓഫ് പ്രസിഡൻഷ്യൽ ഫോം ഓഫ് ഗവൺമെന്റ്. സെക്കൻഡ് വൺ ഇസ് പ്രസിഡൻഷ്യൽ ഫോമിൽ ഒരു സിംഗിൾ എക്സിക്യൂട്ടീവ് ആണുള്ളത്. സിംഗിൾ എക്സിക്യൂട്ടീവ് എന്ന് പറഞ്ഞാൽ ദ പ്രസിഡന്റ് ഇസ് ദ ഹെഡ് ഓഫ് ദ സ്റ്റേറ്റ് ആസ് വെൽ ആസ് ദ ഹെഡ് ഓഫ് ദ ഗവൺമെന്റ്. അപ്പം real and nominal powers are vested in the president itself. അപ്പം working എന്താ ഈ വർക്കിംഗ് ലെവലിലും at the working level president takes a upper hand. പിന്നെ അടുത്ത പോയിന്റ് എന്ന് പറയുന്നത് ഫിക്സ് ടേം ഓഫ് ദ പ്രസിഡന്റ്. പ്രസിഡൻഷ്യൽ ഫോം ഓഫ് ഗവൺമെന്റിൽ പ്രസിഡന്റിന് എപ്പോഴും ഒരു ഫിക്സ്ഡ് ടേം ആണ്. Mostly it is for 5 years, and unless there is a violation of constitution, the president cannot be removed. Constitutional mandate ൽ നിന്ന് എന്തെങ്കിലും ഒരു വയലേഷൻ ഉണ്ടെങ്കിൽ മാത്രമേ പ്രസിഡന്റിനെ ഇംപീച്ച്മെന്റ് വഴി റിമൂവ് ചെയ്യാൻ പറ്റുള്ളൂ. പിന്നെ അടുത്ത പോയിന്റ് എന്ന് പറയുന്നത് പ്രിഎമിനൻസ് ഓഫ് ദ പ്രസിഡന്റ് ആണ്. അതായത് പ്രസിഡന്റ്, ലൈക്ക് I said, പ്രസിഡന്റിനാണ് പ്രസിഡൻഷ്യൽ ഫോം ഓഫ് ഗവൺമെന്റിൽ അപ്പർ ഹാൻഡ് ഉള്ളത്. ആൻഡ് മെമ്പേഴ്സ് ഓഫ് ദ president's cabinet is considered to be his subordinates. he orders and the subordinates obey. അല്ലാതെ colleagues ആയിട്ടല്ല കൺസിഡർ ചെയ്യുന്നത്. പിന്നെ the secretaries are appointed by the president himself based on their ability and capacity. പിന്നെ the president may accept or reject their advice. Parliamentary form of ഗവൺമെന്റിലാണെങ്കിൽ പ്രസിഡന്റ് എന്തിരുന്നാലും ക്യാബിനറ്റിന്റെ ഡെസിഷൻസിൽ ഫൈനാലിറ്റി മൂളേണ്ടതായിട്ടുണ്ട്. പക്ഷേ പ്രസിഡൻഷ്യൽ ഫോം ഓഫ് ഗവൺമെന്റിൽ അങ്ങനെയില്ല. പ്രസിഡന്റ് മേ ആക്സെപ്റ്റ് ഓർ റിജക്ട് ദർ അഡ്വൈസസ്. അപ്പം ഈ ഒരു സിസ്റ്റം ഫോളോ ചെയ്യുന്ന കൺട്രീസ് എന്ന് പറയുന്നത് USA, ബ്രസീൽ ആൻഡ് സം അതർ കൺട്രീസ് ഓഫ് സൗത്ത് അമേരിക്ക എന്നാണ് സാർ പറഞ്ഞിരുന്നത്. പിന്നെ അടുത്തത് സെമി പ്രസിഡൻഷ്യൽ സിസ്റ്റം. അപ്പൊ സെമി പ്രസിഡൻഷ്യൽ സിസ്റ്റത്തിനകത്ത് സെമി പ്രസിഡൻഷ്യൽ സിസ്റ്റത്തിലും ഡ്യുവൽ എക്സിക്യൂട്ടീവ് സിസ്റ്റം തന്നെയാണ്. ഒരു പ്രസിഡന്റ്, പ്രൈം മിനിസ്റ്റർ ആൻഡ് ക്യാബിനറ്റ് കൂടിയാണ് ഈ എക്സിക്യൂട്ടീവ് സിസ്റ്റം ഫോം ചെയ്യുന്നത്. പക്ഷെ ഈ ഒരു കൈൻഡ് ഓഫ് ഗവൺമെന്റ് പാർലമെന്ററി ഫോമിൽ നിന്ന് എങ്ങനെയാണ് ഡിഫർ ചെയ്യുന്നതെന്ന് വെച്ചാൽ ഈ particular സിസ്റ്റത്തില് president is not a nominal figure, but presidentന് real powers-ഉം നൽകുന്നുണ്ട്. And how is he different from a presidential, how is the semi-presidential system different from the presidential system എന്ന് ചോദിച്ചാൽ ക്യാബിനറ്റ് പ്രസിഡന്റിന്റെ പേരിലാണ് ഫങ്ഷൻ ചെയ്യുന്നതെങ്കിലും ക്യാബിനറ്റിന്റെ റെസ്പോൺസിബിലിറ്റി ഇസ് ടു ദ ലെജിസ്ലേച്ചർ. അപ്പം ഈ സിസ്റ്റം ഫോളോ ചെയ്യുന്ന കൺട്രീസ് എന്ന് പറയുന്നത് ഫ്രാൻസ്, റഷ്യ ആൻഡ് ശ്രീലങ്ക ആണെന്നാണ് പറഞ്ഞത്. പിന്നെ മൂവിങ് ഓൺ ടു യൂണിറ്ററി ഫോം ഓഫ് ഗവൺമെന്റ്. ഇപ്പൊ യൂണിറ്ററി ഗവൺമെന്റ് എന്ന് പറഞ്ഞു കഴിഞ്ഞാൽ ഇറ്റ് ഈസ് സിംഗിൾ ഗവൺമെന്റ്. അതാണ് സിംഗിൾ ഗവൺമെന്റ്, അതാണ് അതിന്റെ പ്രൈമറി ക്യാരക്ടറിസ്റ്റിക് ഫീച്ചർ. അപ്പം അറ്റ് ദ ടോപ്പ് ഒരു സിംഗിൾ ഗവൺമെന്റ് സിസ്റ്റം മാത്രമേ ഉള്ളൂ. ഇറ്റ് ഈസ് an integrated system and all the supreme powers are vested in the center alone. സെന്ററിൽ തന്നെയാണ് ഡിസിഷൻ മേക്കിങ്ങും അതിന്റെ ഫൈനാലിറ്റിയും എല്ലാം വെസ്റ്റ് ചെയ്തിരിക്കുന്നത്. The second feature of unitary form of government is concentration of powers. കോൺസെൻട്രേഷൻ ഓഫ് പവേഴ്സ് എന്ന് പറയുമ്പം മറ്റുള്ള ഗവൺമെന്റ് സിസ്റ്റങ്ങളിൽ ഡെലിഗേഷൻ നമുക്ക് കാണാം, ഡെലിഗേഷൻ ഓഫ് പവേഴ്സ് ടു അഡ്മിനിസ്ട്രേറ്റീവ് യൂണിറ്റ്സ്. പക്ഷെ യൂണിറ്ററി ഫോം ഓഫ് ഗവൺമെന്റിൽ സെന്ററിലാണ് എല്ലാ പവറും വെസ്റ്റ് ചെയ്യുന്നത്. അപ്പം the powers are all concentrated in the hands of a few people. അപ്പൊ അതൊരു ക്യാരക്ടറിസ്റ്റിക് ഫീച്ചറാണ്. പിന്നെ വരുന്ന ഫീച്ചർ എന്ന് പറയുന്നത് അഡ്മിനിസ്ട്രേറ്റീവ് യൂണിറ്റ്സ് അറ്റ് ദ മേഴ്സി ഓഫ് ദ സെന്റർ. അപ്പം നേരത്തെ പറഞ്ഞതുപോലെ പവേഴ്സ് സെന്ററിൽ മാത്രം വെസ്റ്റ് ചെയ്തിരിക്കുന്നത് കൊണ്ട് തന്നെ അവരുടെ കീഴിൽ വരുന്ന അല്ലെങ്കിൽ അവരുടെ കീഴിൽ ഫങ്ഷൻ ചെയ്യുന്ന അഡ്മിനിസ്ട്രേറ്റീവ് യൂണിറ്റ്സിന് കോൺസ്റ്റിറ്റ്യൂഷണൽ എക്സിസ്റ്റൻസ് ഇല്ല. എന്ന് വെച്ച് കഴിഞ്ഞാൽ ഈ അഡ്മിനിസ്ട്രേറ്റീവ് യൂണിറ്റ്സ് ഇന്നുണ്ടെങ്കിൽ അവർക്ക് നാളെ ആ യൂണിറ്റ്സിനെ അബോളിഷ് ചെയ്യാം. അല്ലാന്ന് വെച്ചാൽ അവർക്ക് ഈ അഡ്മിനിസ്ട്രേറ്റീവ് യൂണിറ്റ്സിൽ
സ്ലൈഡ് സ്റ്റോപ്പ് ആയതാണ്. ഒന്നും കൂടി പ്രസന്റേഷൻ ഒന്നും കൂടി സ്റ്റാർട്ട് ചെയ്യേണ്ടി വരും. പ്രവീണ, I think Pravina has gone offline and we may have to continue without the slide.
Okay, sir, ഞാൻ പറയുന്നത് audible ആണോ?
കേൾക്കാൻ പറ്റുന്നുണ്ട്, കേൾക്കാം. ക്ലിയർ ആണ്. ഇറ്റ്സ് ക്ലിയർ.
ഓക്കെ, അപ്പൊ സർ എനിക്കിവിടെ നെറ്റ്വർക്ക് ഇഷ്യൂ ഉണ്ട്, അതുകൊണ്ടാണ് സ്ലൈഡ്സ് ലോഡ് ആവാത്തത്. അപ്പൊ ഞാൻ സ്ലൈഡ്സ് ഇല്ലാതെ പറഞ്ഞാൽ
no problem. Continue for the time being. Continue. As soon as Pravina joins, we may resume with the slides. Neeti, start with no problem. Start.
Okay, sir. So, as I said, unitary form of government powers എല്ലാം കൂടെ കോൺസെൻട്രേറ്റ് ചെയ്തിരിക്കുന്നതെന്ന് പറയുന്നത് സെൻട്രൽ മാത്രമായിട്ടാണ്. അതുകൊണ്ട് ഈ സെൻട്രലിന്റെ കീഴിൽ അഡ്മിനിസ്ട്രേഷൻ ക്യാരി ഔട്ട് ചെയ്യുന്ന യൂണിറ്റ്സ് ഉണ്ട്, ചെറിയ ചെറിയ ഡിപ്പാർട്ട്മെന്റ്സ് ഉണ്ട്. എന്നിരുന്നാലും അവർക്ക് ഒരു കോൺസ്റ്റിറ്റ്യൂഷണൽ എക്സിസ്റ്റൻസ് ഇല്ല. അതുകൊണ്ട് തന്നെ the center can decide whether the units should continue functioning or they should abolish it or reorganize it. ഇതെന്തും ഡിസൈഡ് ചെയ്യാനുള്ള പവർ സെന്ററിൽ ഇരിക്കുന്നവർക്കാണ്. പിന്നെയുള്ള അടുത്ത ഫീച്ചർ എന്ന് പറയുന്നത് അതിന്റെ കോൺസ്റ്റിറ്റ്യൂഷനെ പറ്റിയാണ്. യൂണിറ്ററി ഗവൺമെന്റ് ക്യാൻ ഹാവ് റിട്ടൺ ഓർ അൺറിട്ടൺ കോൺസ്റ്റിറ്റ്യൂഷൻ. ഇത് രണ്ടുമാവും, റിട്ടൺ കോൺസ്റ്റിറ്റ്യൂഷനോ അൺറിട്ടൺ കോൺസ്റ്റിറ്റ്യൂഷനോ ആവാം. എന്നിരുന്നാലും യൂണിറ്ററി ഫോം ഓഫ് ഗവൺമെന്റിൽ മോസ്റ്റ്ലി അൺറിട്ടൺ കോൺസ്റ്റിറ്റ്യൂഷൻ ആണ് ഫോളോ ചെയ്ത് വരുന്നത്. സോ അതിന്റെ ഒരു കാരണം തന്നെയാണ് അടുത്ത പോയിന്റ്, ദാറ്റ് ഇസ് ഫ്ലെക്സിബിലിറ്റി ഓഫ് ദി കോൺസ്റ്റിറ്റ്യൂഷൻ. അപ്പം ഈ സെന്ററിൽ മാത്രം പവർ വെസ്റ്റ് ചെയ്തിരിക്കുന്നുണ്ട്, അവർക്ക് ഈ കോൺസ്റ്റിറ്റ്യൂഷനെ ഫ്രം ടൈം ടു ടൈം ഓൾട്ടർ ചെയ്യുകയോ റീഓർഗനൈസ് ചെയ്യുകയോ അമെൻമെന്റ്സ് വരുത്തുകയോ ചെയ്യാവുന്നതാണ്. സോ യൂണിറ്ററി ഫോം ഓഫ് ഗവൺമെന്റിലെ കോൺസ്റ്റിറ്റ്യൂഷൻ ഇസ് മോസ്റ്റ്ലി ഫ്ലെക്സിബിൾ. പിന്നെ നെക്സ്റ്റ് characteristic feature of unitary form of government is the supremacy of legislature. അപ്പം യൂണിറ്ററി ഫോം ഓഫ് ഗവൺമെന്റിലെ ലെജിസ്ലേച്ചർ എടുക്കുന്ന ഡിസിഷൻസ് എല്ലാം ബൈൻഡിങ് ആണ്. ആൻഡ് അതിന് മേലായിട്ട് ഒരു ക്വസ്റ്റ്യൻ ഉയർത്താൻ പറ്റില്ല. അപ്പം ദ ലെജിസ്ലേച്ചർ ഇസ് സുപ്രീം. ആൻഡ് യൂണിറ്ററി ഫോം ഓഫ് ഗവൺമെന്റിൽ ദർ ഇസ് ഓൺലി സിംഗിൾ സിറ്റിസൺഷിപ്പ്. That is, the person is considered as a citizen of the country as a whole. Then comes the federal form of government. The federal form of government in the features എന്തൊക്കെയായിരുന്നു എന്ന് വെച്ചാൽ coexistence of two sets of governments. അപ്പം ഒരു എന്താ പറയാ, സെന്ററിൽ ഒരു ഗവൺമെന്റ് കാണും, സ്റ്റേറ്റിൽ ഒരു ഗവൺമെന്റ് കാണും. അതായത് ഓരോ കോൺസ്റ്റിറ്റ്യൂവന്റ് യൂണിറ്റിലും ഓരോ ഗവൺമെന്റ് കാണും. ആൻഡ് ഈ രണ്ട് ഗവൺമെന്റ്സും അന്യോന്യം റിലൈ ചെയ്താണ് വർക്ക് ചെയ്യുന്നത്, അല്ലെങ്കിൽ അതിനെ കോഎക്സിസ്റ്റ് ചെയ്താണ് വർക്ക് ചെയ്യുന്നത്. ഫെഡറൽ ഫോം ഓഫ് ഗവൺമെന്റിൽ അങ്ങനെയാണ്, ഒരു സെൻട്രും സ്റ്റേറ്റും കൂടെ കോഎക്സിസ്റ്റ് ചെയ്താണ് വർക്ക് ചെയ്യുന്നത്. പിന്നെ in a federal form of government, both the governments have right to promulgate laws. സെന്ററിനും ലോസ് ഉണ്ടാക്കാനുള്ള അധികാരമുണ്ട്, സ്റ്റേറ്റ് അഡ്മിനിസ്ട്രേറ്റീവ് യൂണിറ്റ്സിനും ലോസ് ഉണ്ടാക്കാൻ അധികാരമുണ്ട്. ആൻഡ് on the basis of both these laws, the running of administration can be carried forward by the central government and the state government. അതാണ് അപ്പം വേറൊരു ഫീച്ചർ ഓഫ് ഫെഡറൽ ഫോം ഓഫ് ഗവൺമെന്റ്. പിന്നെന്ന് പറയുന്നത് ഈ ഫെഡറൽ സിസ്റ്റം പല രാജ്യങ്ങളിലായിട്ട് അഡോപ്റ്റ് ചെയ്തിട്ടുണ്ട്. പക്ഷെ എന്തെന്ന് പറഞ്ഞാലും എല്ലാ രാജ്യങ്ങളിലും ഒരേ രീതിയിലല്ല പവേഴ്സിന്റെ ഡിവിഷൻ നടന്നിരിക്കുന്നതെന്ന് പറഞ്ഞു. അതിപ്പം അപ്പം ഇറ്റ് വേരീസ് ഫ്രം കൺട്രി ടു കൺട്രി. ഇപ്പം ഓരോ രാജ്യത്തെയും ഫെഡറൽ ഫോം അല്ലെങ്കിൽ ഫെഡറൽ ഗവർണൻസ് പറയുന്നത് അവരവരുടെ അഡ്മിനിസ്ട്രേറ്റീവ് സിസ്റ്റത്തിൽ വരുത്താവുന്ന കൺവീനിയൻസിനനുസരിച്ചാണ്. അപ്പൊ അവിടുത്തെ ഡിവിഷൻ ഓഫ് പവേഴ്സും അങ്ങനെയാണ് ചാനലൈസ് ചെയ്യുന്നത്. പിന്നെ അടുത്ത ക്യാരക്ടറിസ്റ്റിക് ഫീച്ചർ എന്ന് പറയുന്നത് ഫെഡറൽ ഫോം ഓഫ് ഗവൺമെന്റിൽ യൂഷ്വലി കോൺസ്റ്റിറ്റ്യൂഷൻ റിജിഡ് ആണ്. അപ്പം റിജിഡ് ആവുമ്പം അത് റിട്ടൺ ആവുന്നതാവുന്നില്ല. അപ്പം കോൺസ്റ്റിറ്റ്യൂഷൻ of a federal form of government is always rigid and written. It should be rigid and written to such an extent that the federal character of that particular country should not be tarnished. ആ ഒരു എക്സ്റ്റെന്റ് വരെയാണ് റിജിഡിറ്റി മെയിൻറ്റെയിൻ ചെയ്യേണ്ടത്. So that is one characteristic feature. Then federal form of governance supremacy of the constitution ഒരു important characteristic feature ആണ്. അതായത് constitution is considered to be the supreme law of the land, and since this is a supreme law of the land, both center and the states are bound to obey by the constitution. അപ്പൊ കോൺസ്റ്റിറ്റ്യൂഷനിൽ കൊടുത്തിരിക്കുന്ന മാൻഡേറ്റിന് അപ്പുറമായിട്ട് സെന്ററിനോ സ്റ്റേറ്റിനോ ഇത് ഫങ്ഷൻസ് ക്യാരി ഔട്ട് ചെയ്യാൻ പറ്റില്ല. ആൻഡ് ഇഫ് എനി ആക്ട് happens as such, it is considered to be ultra vires of the constitution. പിന്നെ അടുത്ത characteristic feature of a federal government എന്ന് പറയുന്ന supremacy of the hello
ma'am, sorry, and the connection, I lost my connection, പക്ഷേ സ്ലൈഡ് പോയോ?
അത് ഓക്കെ പ്രവീണ, ജസ്റ്റ് നീ ഇത് കണ്ടിന്യൂ ചെയ്യും. എനിക്ക് തോന്നുന്നു സെക്ഷൻ കഴിയാറായി. സോ നോ പ്രോബ്ലം. അതെ.
Okay, so supremacy of judiciary is another characteristic feature of federal form of government. അപ്പം ഈ ഒരു പർട്ടിക്കുലർ ക്യാരക്ടറിന്റെ മെയിൻ നമ്മൾ കൺസിഡർ ചെയ്യേണ്ട പോയിന്റ്സ് പറയുന്നത് the judiciary as such will be independent and impartial. And also this judiciary is responsible of guarding the constitution. അപ്പം അങ്ങനെ ഈ കോൺസ്റ്റിറ്റ്യൂഷണൽ മാൻഡേറ്റും കോൺസ്റ്റിറ്റ്യൂഷനിൽ പറയുന്ന പ്രൊവിഷൻസും ഗാർഡ് ചെയ്യുന്ന ഒരു ഇൻസ്ട്രുമെന്റ് ആയിട്ടാണ് ജുഡീഷ്യറി കൺസിഡർ ചെയ്യുന്നത്. സോ അതുകൊണ്ട് തന്നെ ദ ജുഡീഷ്യറി ഇസ് ഇൻഡിപെൻഡന്റ് ആൻഡ് ഇംപാർഷ്യൽ ഇൻ എ ഫെഡറൽ ഫോം ഓഫ് ഗവൺമെന്റ്. പിന്നെ ഇൻ എ ഫെഡറൽ ഫോം ഓഫ് ഗവൺമെന്റ് ഡബിൾ സിറ്റിസൺഷിപ്പ് ആണ് പ്രൊവൈഡ് ചെയ്യുന്നത്. അപ്പൊ ഡബിൾ സിറ്റിസൺഷിപ്പ് എന്ന് പറഞ്ഞാല് the person who is in that particular country, federal form of government ulla country la, the person is the citizen of that country as well as that particular administrative unit. അപ്പൊ രണ്ട് ഡ്യുവൽ സിറ്റിസൺഷിപ്പ് ആണ്, ഡബിൾ സിറ്റിസൺഷിപ്പ് ആണ് അവിടെ ഫെഡറൽ ഫോം ഓഫ് ഗവൺമെന്റിൽ ഒരു സിറ്റിസന് കിട്ടുന്നത്. അപ്പം ഇത്രയാണ് സാർ പറഞ്ഞിരുന്നത്. അപ്പൊ ഇതിൽ നിന്ന് ടുവേർഡ്സ് ദി എൻഡ് നമ്മൾ ഇന്ത്യ അഡോപ്റ്റ് ചെയ്തിരിക്കുന്ന ചില ഫെഡറൽ ഫീച്ചേഴ്സ് സാറ് ഒന്ന് മെൻഷൻ ചെയ്തായിരുന്നു. അതെന്താന്ന് വെച്ചാല് ഇന്ത്യ അഡോപ്റ്റ് ചെയ്യുന്ന ഫെഡറൽ ഫീച്ചേഴ്സ് എന്തൊക്കെയാന്ന് വെച്ചാല് there are 2 sets of government, one at the center and the state. പിന്നെ ഡിവിഷൻ ഓഫ് പവേഴ്സ് ബിറ്റ്വീൻ ദ സെന്റർ ആൻഡ് ദ സ്റ്റേറ്റ്. അതായത് അഡ്മിനിസ്ട്രേഷൻ നടത്തണമെങ്കിൽ സെന്ററിനും സ്റ്റേറ്റിനുമായിട്ട് സർട്ടൻ പവേഴ്സ് ഡിവൈഡ് ചെയ്ത് കൊടുത്തിട്ടുണ്ട്. അപ്പം ആ പവേഴ്സ് റിലൈ ചെയ്ത് യൂണിയനും സ്റ്റേറ്റിനും അവർക്ക് കൊടുത്തിരിക്കുന്ന പവേഴ്സ് മേക്ക് യൂസ് ചെയ്ത് ലോസ് ഇംപ്ലിമെന്റ് ചെയ്യാമെന്നാണ് പറയുന്നത്. അപ്പം ഈ പവേഴ്സ് കൊടുത്തിരിക്കുന്നത് 3 ലിസ്റ്റിന്റെ കീഴിലാണ്: യൂണിയൻ ലിസ്റ്റ്, സ്റ്റേറ്റ് ലിസ്റ്റും കൺകറന്റ് ലിസ്റ്റും. അപ്പൊ യൂണിയൻ ലിസ്റ്റിൽ കൊടുത്തിരിക്കുന്ന ഐറ്റംസിന്റെ മേല് സെൻട്രൽ ഗവൺമെന്റിന് ലോസ് ഉണ്ടാക്കാവുന്നതാണ്. സ്റ്റേറ്റ് ലിസ്റ്റിൽ കൊടുത്തിരിക്കുന്ന ഐറ്റംസിന്റെ മേല് സ്റ്റേറ്റിന് ലോസ് ഉണ്ടാക്കാവുന്നതാണ്. കൺകറന്റ് ലിസ്റ്റിൽ കൊടുത്തിരിക്കുന്ന ഐറ്റംസിന്റെ മേല് ബോത്ത് ദ സെന്റർ ആൻഡ് ദ സ്റ്റേറ്റ് ക്യാൻ മേക്ക് ലോസ്. ബട്ട് രണ്ടും ഒരേ ഒരു സെയിം ഐറ്റത്തിന്റെ പുറത്ത് രണ്ട് സെൻട്രും സ്റ്റേറ്റും ലോ ഉണ്ടാക്കിയിട്ടുണ്ട്. ആൻഡ് എന്തെങ്കിലും ഡിസ്ക്രിപ്പൻസീസ് സ്റ്റേറ്റ് ലോയിൽ നമ്മൾ കണ്ടെന്ന് വന്നു കഴിഞ്ഞാൽ യൂണിയൻ ഉണ്ടാക്കിയിരിക്കുന്ന ലോയെ പ്രിവെയിൽ ചെയ്യത്തുള്ളൂ. അപ്പം പിന്നെ ഈ 3 ലിസ്റ്റിലും കൊടുക്കാത്ത ഐറ്റംസിന്റെ മേലില് ലോസ് ഉണ്ടാക്കാനുള്ള പവറ് കൊടുത്തിരിക്കുന്നത് ലോക്സഭയ്ക്കാണ്. അപ്പൊ ഇത്രയും കാര്യങ്ങളാണ് സാറ് കഴിഞ്ഞ ക്ലാസ്സിൽ എടുത്തത്, ടോപ്പിക്സ് ആണ് എടുത്തത്. ഇതൊരു ചെറിയ ഒരു ഇൻ എ നട്ട്ഷെൽ ഞാനൊരു ടേബിൾ ആയിട്ട് ആ പ്രസന്റേഷനിൽ കൊടുത്തിട്ടുണ്ടായിരുന്നു ഫോർ ഈസി റെഫറൻസ്. അപ്പം അതാണ് അവസാനത്തെ സ്ലൈഡായിട്ട് ഞാൻ കൊടുത്തിരിക്കുന്നത്. സോ ഹിയർ എൻഡ്സ് ദ പ്രസന്റേഷൻ.
Thank you so much, ma'am. First of all, sorry, please to excuse that I lost my connection due to network issues. Today we have with us Ranjit Chandran sir, DGM Legal of Canara Bank, Bangalore. So we shall start today's session, sir. Over to you, sir.
Good evening. Good evening to all. Am I audible?
Yes, sir, you are.
Yeah, so good evening, Safi Mohan sir, and all the friends. Neeti Chako has given a good presentation. Actually, she has summarized all whatever concepts we have taken in the first session. So it was this has helped me a lot because you people have got refreshed for earlier class sessions also. So now we can go to the presentation. Whether it is just share the screen. Is it audible? Is it visible? My presentation?
No, sir. No.
No, sir.
No?
Yes,
Yes,
sir.
sir.
Yes, sir.
Okay. So last session we were just giving an introduction. That is, which are the types of governments available and what are the types of governments in different countries. So parliamentary form we have studied, presidential form we have seen, federal government, unitary government. So basically, it's always how to govern the people, right? Like how the people of a country is being governed. The system is being developed by different people, different thought processes, different schools of thought. And what has happened is based on their thinking and thought process and lots of trial and error methods, these systems have evolved. Like presidential form, like executive power is given to the president, and the what you call legislation is entirely different department. Parliamentary form where there is a overlapping of powers between the legislature and the executive. So it is, you cannot say that each system is a foolproof system. Like there is no flaws on this presidential form or the executive, parliamentary form. However, it is being functioning for so many years, and it's a time-tested, proved forms of government which are being accepted by people of different countries. So now what we will see, when these type of governments they are being functioning, how they are controlling their powers, how the powers are being utilized, how it is being exercised, whether there is any infringement, whether there is any connection or any overlapping, and if overlapping is there, up to what extent you can control that. What are the checks and balances? So that ultimately leads us to the separation of powers. Like powers, my power is this much, your power is this much. You have to have a separation. So that is the basic concept of today's class, that is separation of powers. And we will be taking into consideration the type of governments in 4 countries, that is India, UK, USA and France. So these are all different types of, like India and UK almost same, USA is completely different, and France is the semi-presidential form. So we will see how the separation of powers are exercised or implemented in these countries. First of all, we will see one that is one concept, that is a monarchy, or the earlier king's rule. Not telling about the UK system, but overall, when a king was ruling the country, you see that time also there was an executive, there was a judicial function, and there is a legislative function. See, the judicial function, the king was making the law. The king was implementing the law, and king was adjudicating the law and giving the decisions. All of you agree with that, right? Am I audible? Hello?
Yes, sir.
Am I audible?
Yes, sir.
Yes, sir.
Yeah. So I was just telling about the monarchy or the king's rule, where the powers were centralized in a single person, the king. So that was the system which was prevailing earlier, and that was affecting the liberty, the democratic setup, and it was into a what you call concentration of powers. It led to concentration of powers. So that was against the interest of the people. So that is why we are in this democratic world. We are exercising these type of different types of governments and the what do you call this separation of powers. If you see the history or how it has developed, separation of power, the concept of separation of power. So basically, it is a model for governance of both democratic and federative states. And as you are all aware, ancient Greece and a Roman Republic, they are the concepts. They are the what you call the places where these concepts of governance has emerged, and this what you call this separation of power concept also has come into place from those areas only. You see, Plato and Aristotle, they have come out with this what do you call this concept of separation of powers. Aristotle has given the governance functions into three categories, that is deliberative, magisterial and judicial. Making the laws, executing the laws and adjudicating the laws. So basically society is a system where you have the laws which is being governed for the what you call controlling the society, for a law and order in the society, for governing the society, for the welfare of the people. Welfare of the people. So that was the basic concept. And so if you see, Aristotle has come out with this idea. That is, there are three functions of the government, that is deliberative, magisterial and judicial. You see, in 16th and 17th century, that French philosopher John Bodin and British politician Locke expressed their views about the theory of separation of powers. I am just telling you about how it came into this concept came into. And you know about Montesquieu. He has written in his book this Spirit of the Laws. In that, it is mentioned that this doctrine, he has elaborated on that doctrine. So why this separating powers is required? Now, I have already told you why separation of powers is required is when there is accumulation of power on a single person, single ruler. What will emerge is tyranny. Tyranny is the situation which will come out. So what you see when dictators, you see dictators in the Hitler or such type of persons, they were also making the law. They were executing the law and they were implementing it. They are adjudicating it. You see the king's rule. That also same thing. So excessive power in a single person is always dangerous, and that is why the separating the powers between the independent branches was taken forward, and this concept has been inculcated in all these forms, that is parliamentary form, presidential form, as well as the semi-presidential forms. Just see the Montesquieu's theory. See, he has deliberated that the theory, the powers, separation of powers. This is actually the powers available for governance. It is already three types. There are three kinds of powers. That is, one is legislative, executive and judicial. All of you are aware. And these three executive forms of government. One second. Hello. Sorry for that. So there are three types of powers. That is, one is legislative, executive and judicial. If these three powers are united in the same organ or individual, what is affected is liberty. Liberty is the thing which will be affected. Example, legislative and executive powers are united. There is an apprehension that the organ concerned may enact tyrannical laws. You see, I am making the law, I am executing the law. So what will happen is, when I am making a law, I will be having a lot of vested interest to have some benefits, to what you call legislate the law, execute it for my benefit. There is some sort of tyrannical approach will come out. And if judicial power is also in given to this legislature and executive, this it is mixed with these two powers. Obviously, if there is any misuse of law, nobody will catch it, or it will not be, the abuse of the law will not be curtailed. So that is why, another instance, there will be end of everything if the same man or same body were to exercise those three powers, that of enacting laws, that of executing the public resolutions, and of trying to the cause of individual. So what you call this tyranny that has come out from this only, that all the powers are vested in a single individual. So the separation of powers is very simple. Why the separation of powers is there? To end tyranny, for the liberty of the people, for the democratic setup to function, for the welfare of the people. The powers are separated into three wings: legislature, executive, and judiciary. That is the basic concept. It is very simple. It is simple as that. There is another concept by Wade and Phillips. What they are telling is the same person should not form part of more than one of the three organs of the government. That one organ of the government should not interfere with any other organ of the government. That one organ of the government should not exercise the functions assigned to any other organ. This theory had different applications. So it's also the same concept only, like Montesquieu has told. There should not be any accumulation of powers on a single person. Now we'll go into US. Whether separation of powers is there in US, how it is ensured. As you are all aware, USA is a presidential form of government where there is a written constitution, and it is a rigid concept that there will not be any deviation from the constitutional provisions. So they follow the constitution very rigorously and without any deviations. You know, the president can be impeached for violation of the constitution. So the constitution is the paramount for a federal system and a presidential system which is being exercised in US. So in US, the constitution, if you see, Article 1, Section 1, vests all legislative powers in the Congress. I have already told you, Congress is the elected body, which is the legislative powers, holding the legislative powers, and they are given the Congress is holding the legislative powers. Article 2, Section 1 of the Constitution vests all executive powers in the President. So President is the executive, he is the real executive, he is holding all the executive powers as per the Constitution. And Article 3, Section 1 vests all judicial powers in the Supreme Court. So Supreme Court is holding the judicial powers, that is in the US. Now the main characteristics of the doctrine in US. Just you see, there are two main things. One is presidential form and principle of checks and balances. Now, presidential form, I have already told you, president is a real executive. That is, he is holding the executive power. Executive, he is a real executive. So now the doubt will come like, who is the secretaries appointed by the president, whether they are having the power. President has the power to appoint his own secretaries, all his office, everybody. President has the power to appoint. They will be controlling the policies and actions of the government departments. But the president is not bound by the advice given. He can take it, but he is not bound to act on the advice of the secretaries. It is not that he has to, like in parliamentary form, the cabinet and the prime minister. Not like that. President is the sole executive. The persons in charge of the various departments designated as secretaries of the state hold the office at the pleasure of the president, and they are responsible to the president, and it's like more like personal advisors. It is only to support the president. It is not that the advisors or the secretaries have any binding, any say on the it is only an advisory function, and the president can have the discretion either to accept it or to reject it. He is not bound to accept the advice. The separation is maintained at the legislature and the executive organ, where neither the president nor any member of the executive is a member of the Congress. So that is, as I have already deliberated, the president is not a member of the Congress. He is a separate executive, and the Congress is a separate body. When Congress is exercising the legislative power, President is exercising the executive power. The system of government is fundamentally different from the parliament system. That is already told. In US, the President is not in theory responsible to the Congress and has a fixed tenure of office and does not depend on majority support in the Congress. Now, there are some cases of overlapping. It is not that it is not pure executive and pure legislature. So there are some overlapping. President is having some powers of the legislature. Legislature of the Congress is having some powers of the president. So when I was talking about this separation of powers, you obviously you will have the doubt why this is there. When you have told that there is clear separation of powers, why there is an overlapping? Here comes the principle of checks and balances. So they are both legislature, executive, judiciary. They are all existing side by side. All are equal, but there are some controls given in between these wings, these branches. Why? To control. There is a checks and balances being put on one institution by the other institution. So that is the principle of checks and balances. So if you see US, one is the presidential form, second is the principle of checks and balances. Some checks and balances are put, some control is put by the legislature over the executive, executive over the legislature. Like that. Judiciary, there is a control of the judiciary over the judiciary. How it is, we'll see. President can be said to be exercising a legislative function when he veto a bill passed by the Congress. See, Congress has the power to pass the law. So when there is a bill passed by the Congress, President has a power to veto a bill. So there is an what you call infringement, or there is President is getting involved into some sort of a legislative activity when he is vetoing a bill passed by the Congress. Obviously, he is doing a legislative function when he is vetoing a bill. So that is an executive doing a legislative function. Appointment of certain high officials is subject to the approval of the Senate. You see, Senate. You see, Senate is having the power to approve the appointment of certain high officials, and some treaty is made by the president. It has to be ratified. It has to be accepted by the Senate. So Senate is exercising executive functions. Executive function is usually done by the president, but in these two scenarios, the president, the power of the president or the executive function is being exercised by the Senate. It says checks and balances. Like there is a control over the president. He cannot go on and appoint all higher officials of his choice. Then again, tyranny will be there. Again, there will be some sort of a biased approach, or it may affect the welfare of the people. So, like going entering into treaty without considering the national interest, there is a checks and balance put by the Senate. President cannot do that. So there is a control. Then executive functioning of the Congress can be seen through various committees which has the power to sanction money to governmental operations. So Congress sanction is required. Congress sanction is required for sanctioning of financial power to the governmental operations. There is a control on the government operations. The executive function is being controlled by the legislature. How they are controlling the sanctioning of money power. So that power is being used. The Supreme Court has the power to declare the acts passed by the Congress unconstitutional. Obviously, if there is any of the act is being challenged, which is against the Constitution, if it is being challenged before the Supreme Court obviously has the power to declare the acts passed by the Congress as unconstitutional. However, you see the judges of the Supreme Court are appointed by the President with the consent of the Senate. So executive and the legislature are coming here for appointment of the judicial officers. There is an overlapping. The Congress has the power to exercise judicial function of impeachment to remove the President. So the legislature using the impeachment power to remove the President, the executive. The legislature is having a control over the executive. The Congress has delegated legislative powers to numerous administrative organs, and they exercise all type of functions. So there is some delegated powers of the Congress to the administrative organs. So administrative organs are executive. Congress, the legislative powers of the Congress is given to the executive. There is overlapping. And the Supreme Court has never held that the combination of all these powers in one agency is unconstitutional. So that is the history. The precedents say that there is no such unconstitutional overlapping. Obviously, if there is anything which is unconstitutional, it's against the constitution, that cannot work out. However, here these type of overlapping, like the executive overlapping the legislature, legislature overlapping the executive, judicial appointments are being done by the executive and the legislature. So these are all overlapping things in a country like US, where there is a presidential form of government being followed with a rigid constitution and a written constitution. So such a system shows that the separation of powers is there, but there are overlapping to a certain extent. Now the overlapping to an extent is done to protect the liberty of the people and to ensure that there is no tyrannical approach. No organ of the government should form an autocratic type of government, power, autocratic rule. That should not be there. So that is the ultimate aim. So this overlapping of powers, that is principle of checks and balances, is accepted for the betterment, for the welfare of this government system. So what I have told earlier, that is just reiterated here, that is exercise of performing some part of the function by an organ likely to do it by the other type of organ is justified on the basis of theory of checks and balances. It means that the functioning of one organ is checked in some measure by the organ, so that no organ shall run amok with its powers and misuse the same. So misuse, there should not be any sort of, like, the president is having power, he is going to appoint all the higher officials, he is controlling all these things. So that should not be there. He should not go around the world and enter into treaties which is affecting the welfare of the country. No, it should not be there. So there is, when the president is entering into a treaty, he has to take the confidence of the Senate, of this legislature, because without that he knows there is no use. So these are the controls which are put on the president. So he should not go around and use his powers, because as you know, president is a very powerful person in the presidential form. See, Justice Cardoso, he has given what do you call his judgment in Panama Refining Company versus Rian. In this, he has quoted, "The doctrine of separation of powers is not a doctrinaire concept to be made use of with pedantic vigor. There must be sensible approximation, there must be elasticity of adjustment in response to the practical necessities of government, which cannot foresee today the development of tomorrow in their nearly infinite variety." See, he is also very clear that you cannot go for separation of powers on very strict sense. It should not be a rigorous one. The doctrine of separation of powers is there, but it should be with some sort of flexibility. That is why he is using the word elasticity of adjustment. So flexibility is what is required, and why that flexibility is required? Should be in response to the practical necessities of government. See, the government requires some requirement is there. So that is, this elasticity, this flexibility should be there in a requirement, in response to that government requirements. Because you cannot foresee the development, what is coming tomorrow. So there should not, we don't know who is going to emerge as how. Like this person, he is the president, how he is going to emerge tomorrow, how he is going to utilize his powers. So there should not be any, you cannot freely give all the powers to one person, or all the Congress. You cannot give full legislative powers to them. There should be some sort of checks and balances between the organs. So that is why separation of powers is there, but you cannot use it with in strict sense. There will be some sort of overlap. Just I will take you to the government of France, which is functioning in France. So US, I have told, it's a presidential form. President has the real executive. He exercises the powers. The Congress, legislative powers. Supreme Court is having the judicial powers. Now there is president, while he is the real executive, he has some checks and balances by the Congress. Congress is the real legislature, that is legislative powers, but they are having some checks and balances by the president. the judicial system, the Supreme Court is having judicial powers, but it has some control by the President as well as the Senate while appointing the President, judges. When there is a law which is unconstitutional, the judiciary will take over. So these are all the checks and balances which are seen in US. What you can see in France, France is having a different system, that is a semi-presidential system, dual executive system. I have told you what is the difference between semi-presidential and presidential and parliamentary system. So the semi-presidential system or dual executive system, here the president exists along with the prime minister and the cabinet. Both are very, it is not that it is a nominal president, he is a powerful president only, and the prime minister is also there and cabinet is there. President is accountable to the legislature, he is responsible to the legislature. So these are there. So it differs from the parliamentary republic. It has a popularly elected head of state who is more than mostly ceremonial. Like if you compare it with the UK or Indian system, Indian president or the UK's monarch. So you see the parliamentary, the France government, their president is not a nominal head. He doesn't have, he has some powers. He is a popularly elected head of the state. And the president in US, he is not responsible to the Congress, whereas this president in France is responsible to the legislature. So some sort of, it is a mixed type. The politics of France takes place with the framework of semi-presidential system determined by the French Constitution of the French Fifth Republic. The nation declares itself to be an indivisible, secular, democratic and social republic. The Constitution provides for separation of powers and proclaims France's attachment to the rights of man and the principles of national sovereignty as defined by the Declaration of 1789. So there is a concept of separation of powers in France also. Now, how it is? Even though France is credited with giving origin to the doctrine of separation of powers, it recognizes the separation of powers in its constitution in a flexible manner. So here also you see the concept of flexibility coming into the picture. Like it is not that you are separating the powers, you are using it, you know, the concept itself came from France, but they are also not using it in a very strict manner. It is a flexibility. Flexibility is there. Article 1 and 2, Article 2 separates the legislature from the executive. That is a separation of powers. And you can see the dual court system. Like in India, if you see the civil matters and the administrative matters separate. So some sort of separation of powers is there, but it is not in a strict sense. It is also flexible. The French administration also consists of three independent organs: the legislature, executive, and judiciary. The legislature makes laws, executive implements, and the executive exercising the veto to prevent a particular law from being passed keeps a check on the legislature. So this is the checks and balance. Here also the principle of checks and balance is there. Executive is exercising veto. Executive has the power to veto a law which is promulgated or enacted by the legislature. Judiciary has the power to determine the constitutionality of the laws passed by the legislature. Obviously, in all governments, you see, the judiciary will have the power to test the constitutional validity of the laws which are being passed by the legislature. It is not that it will go, once the legislature passes, it will go to the judiciary and judiciary has to approve, then it will go. It is not like that, but it has to stand the test of adjudication. Like when a law is passed, obviously it will be challenged before the judiciary, and judiciary has the power to determine whether it is legally valid, it is constitutional, or it is unconstitutional, and then it will pass an order. So that is binding. So that is the power of the judiciary over the legislature. And obviously, when the executive executes the law, there may be some violations, there may be some deviations, judiciary will interfere. The legislative branch also has the power to remove a president or judge if they are not doing the duties of their job right. So what is the power of the legislature on the executive? It can remove a president. The legislature also can remove a judge. So there is a control of the legislature over the executive as well as the judiciary. The executive branch chooses the judges and the legislative branch approves the executive branch choice. So there is a process followed by the what you call appointment of the judges. So executive is choosing the judge and the legislature is approving the judge. So that is also what we call an overlapping of powers. The power is not given to a single person. There is some sort of overlapping of powers. So what I have told in my earlier slide, even though France is having a concept of separation of power, there also it is not what you call in strict sense it is not being used. There also it is overlapping is there. System of checks and balances are there. This is for the ultimate welfare of the government, of the people. Now we'll go to the UK. I have kind of covered US, France. UK, you see parliamentary form of government where the monarch or the king or the queen is the nominal executive. They have the prime minister and the what we call the cabinet who is having the executive powers. The legislature is there. The parliament is what you call this cabinet of ministers, and the prime minister should be a member of the parliament. So there is an overlapping. And the judicial system, obviously. In UK, the doctrine of separation of powers, how it came to be, there is, I just go through this slide, that is jurist Blackstone's view. So he was supporting the doctrine of Montesquieu, and whatever he has told is, wherever the right of making and enforcing the law is vested in the same man or in the same body of men, there can be no liberty. So, like that, he has supported the views of Montesquieu. Liberty is one thing which will be affected when there is a power of right of making the law, enforcing the law is given to the same person. I am making the law, I am enforcing the law. There will be obviously tyranny will be there. The liberty of the people will be affected, and it's like I have the power, I will be using it for my own benefit. So that is what Montesquieu has told, and Julius Blackstone has supported him. Still, you see, British system also has a weak division of powers. It is also not very rigid. UK, the absence of, there is no written constitution, I have told you. There is no formal separation of powers, and hence no act of the parliament may be held to be unconstitutional if any powers is conferred in breach of the doctrine. There any act is being passed. It is not unconstitutional that he is interfering into the executive function, he is interfering into the legislative function, or the legislature is interfering into the executive function. You cannot hold it as unconstitutional because you cannot term it to be unconstitutional as there is no written constitution. In Britain, the executive power consists of the crown and the government, including the prime minister, cabinet of ministers, and also the civil service. The executive mainly formulates and executes the government policies. The government is accountable to parliament, which has the ultimate power to dismiss a government and force a general election. The new government will be elected. The government is mainly elected from the members of the parliament who sit in either House of the Commons or House of Lords. So it's like, you see, the crown is there, the king or the queen is there, and supporting who is the nominal head. There is a prime minister, cabinet of ministers, civil service. They are executing the law. So it is an executive power. The executive formulates and executes the government policies. The government is accountable to the parliament. That is one difference between the presidential form and the parliamentary form. So here, what you see is the government is accountable to the parliament for any anything which is against the law, against the law. So you cannot do any act which is affecting or which is against the law. So you see, the prime minister is accountable, the cabinet of ministers is accountable to the parliament. So the government is accountable to the parliament, and it has the ultimate power to dismiss a government and force a general election. No confidence motions or something, those things are passed, and you can throw off the parliamentary, this executive. So legislature's power on that. The government is mainly elected from the members of parliament who sit in either House of Commons or House of Lords. You know the upper house and lower house, House of Commons and House of Lords. So government should be a member of the elected member of the parliament. So legislative members are only functioning as executive here. So separation of powers finds a lesser applicability in parliamentary form. The legislative power in UK is held by the parliament. As I've already told you, the parliament consists of the lower and upper house, the House of Lords and House of Commons. House of Commons is an elected body, whereas House of Lords is some sort of an inheritance. So hereditary peers are there, appointed by the crown, archbishops, bishops of the Church of England. Even though they are the upper house or the first house, but the problem is that they don't have the it is superior to the lower house, that is the House of Commons in respect of lawmaking. The main functions of the parliament is to create law, scrutinize the government, and to enable the government to make financial decisions. So financial decisions, all the things are being controlled by the parliament. So parliament, the House of Lords, the House of Commons, they are the controlling the legislative powers. And you see the House of Lords members are in the House of Commons. They are taken as the executive. India has followed mostly this type of system only as parliamentary system, and I will go into that after this. The judicial power, the main function of this branch is to hear upon and resolve matters of law. However, in the UK, the judiciary has one more essential function, to develop the law through their judgments. So there is no written constitution. The law has to evolve through the judgments of the judiciary. So judiciary comes out with the laws with an intent to develop it through their judgments. And you know the judicial officers, judicial office in tribunals, the senior judicial appointments are made by the Crown, which is an executive. Their independence is protected in the Act of Settlement 1700, according to which senior judges can only be dismissed by address to the Crown from both houses of the Parliament. So judges appointment, removal of judges by the legislature, that is one overlapping thing. You would have heard about the concept of the Lord Chancellor in UK or the parliamentary system. So what was the relevance of that? You see, the Lord Chancellor was probably the one person who was a part of all the three branches of the government, that is executive, legislative and judicial. He was a part of the executive, legislative and judicial. So the Lord Chancellor is often regarded as a disregard to the doctrine of separation of powers. When separation of powers talks that you should not have any single person having all the three powers, this Lord Chancellor was a member of all these three forms, and that is why there was a Constitutional Reform Act, and he was acting as a member of the head of the judiciary, member of the cabinet, president of the House of Lords as its speaker. The Constitutional Reform Act has removed him from the position in the judiciary, and he is not the House of Lords speaker also. Now he is a member of either the House of Lords or the House of Commons. So House of Lords. So he is not into all the three forms now. He can be either of the House, he can be a part. That's the only thing. So Constitutional Reform Act 2005, led by the British government towards having a clear division among the powers. So that shows. See, the Constitutional Reform Act 2005 shows that there is an intent towards separation of powers. They also accept this concept of separation of powers, but it is in a very low-key mode. Like it is not a very, very what you call strict form. They are not implementing it, but they also accept or acknowledge that concept is there, separation of powers. Now I will go to the exceptions. What you see, the absolute sovereignty of the parliament is maintained, under which the crown governs through ministers who are the members of the parliament and responsible to it. The independence of judiciary is firmly established by the Act of Settlement 1700. During the 17th century in England, parliament exercised legislative powers, the king exercised executive powers, and the courts exercised judicial powers. But with the emergence of the cabinet system of government, parliamentary form of government, the doctrine remains no good. The renowned constitutional expert Bakewell observed, the cabinet is a hyphen which joins buckle, which fastens the legislative part of the state to the executive power. Already I have told all the things, like see the parliament members, they are coming into the executive. They are the members of the executive. You cannot select a government from other than the what you call the parliament. So there is an overlapping. Executive is a member of the parliament and they are accountable to the parliament. So that is the parliament reform. Judiciary is independent but not fully independent, like appointment of judges are there. In England, the king being the executive head is also an integral part of the legislature. His ministers are also members of one or the other house of the parliament. This concept goes against the idea that same person should not form part of more than one organ of the government. So the king is the executive head and he is also a part of the legislature also. He is the executive head, he is a legislature part also. And these ministers, the king's ministers, are members of the legislature, as I have already told you. This concept goes against the idea that so separation of powers, here it is being affected. In England, House of Commons control the executive. So as far as the judiciary is concerned, in theory, House of Lords is the highest court of the country. But in practical, judicial functions are discharged by persons who are appointed specially for this purpose. They are known as law lords and other persons who held judicial posts. You can say that doctrine of separation of powers is not an essential feature of British Constitution. It is there, but it is not strictly followed, and there are a lot of overlapping in this parliamentary form, and especially the British form, because there is no written constitution, and the law is being formed, it is being developed, it is being evolved through the various judgments. Donoghue-Moore Committee has aptly remarked, in the British Constitution, there is no such thing as the absolute separation of legislative, executive and judicial powers. I have told you what are the overlapping features. In US government presidential form, even though it is separation of powers is there, the principle of checks and balances are there, which is very clear and it is all written where there is an overlap. What is being looked over by which wing? It is there. But in Britain, there is no written constitution and you cannot tell anything to be unconstitutional. Even if a law is made where the executive is given the power to have some control over the legislature, or legislature is having some power to control over the judicial powers, it cannot be termed to be unconstitutional because of the nature of the constitution and the system of government being followed there. Now we'll come to India. You know, Indian system is mostly like British system only, where we have a written constitution. The difference is we have a written constitution, we have the nominal head as the president, we have the parliament, which is exercising the legislative powers. You have the prime minister and the council of ministers, who will be the executive, and they are the real executive. The nominal executive is the president. The president, the prime minister and the cabinet ministers should be the members of the legislature. That is mandatory. So if they are legislative members, they can form the government, which forms the executive, real executive. So the legislative members are following the executive, doing the executive powers. Then the judiciary is there. Judiciary has the power to declare a law as unconstitutional if it is against the constitution. So here also you see a lot of overlapping is there at union level as well as the state level. So in India also you see the separation of powers is there, but to an extent it is being followed, not in a very rigorous manner, it is a flexible manner. That elasticity of application, that is always there. I will just quote some articles of the Constitution where the separation of powers is being dealt with. Article 50, if you see, of the Constitution of India, the state shall take steps to separate the judiciary from the executive. This is for the purpose of ensuring independence of judiciary. This article states that there should be a separation between the executive and the judiciary. Talks about the separation of powers. Article 122 and 212. Validity of proceedings in Parliament and the legislatures cannot be called into question in any court. This ensures the separation and immunity of the legislature from the judicial intervention on the allegation of procedural irregularity. So you see, Parliament, the legislature, if anything is happening, there is an immunity. It cannot be challenged. The proceedings of the Parliament and the legislature cannot be challenged before any court. And this also ensures that the legislative powers are not being controlled by the judiciary. But that doesn't mean that a law passed by the parliament cannot be challenged before the judiciary. Judiciary will interpret the law and it will say whether it is constitutional, unconstitutional, whether any irregularity is there. But the proceedings in the parliament and the legislatures cannot be challenged in the court. Judicial conduct of a judge of the Supreme Court and the High Courts cannot be discussed in the parliament and the state legislature. It is what you call an opposite way. Like judges, the proceedings of the judge, judicial conduct, it cannot be discussed in the parliament, state legislature. There is an immunity, judiciary and the legislature. There is an immunity. There is a separation. Articles 53 and 154 respectively provide that the executive power of the union and the state shall be vested with the president and the governor, and they enjoy immunity from civil and criminal liability. So there is a sovereign immunity. Who is the real executive and who is the nominal executive? The president and the governor at the central and at the state level. It's a federal system. The president is at the center. He is a nominal executive, and the governor is at the state level, and he is the nominal executive head. So these two people, they are having immunity, sovereign immunity from civil and criminal liability. So you cannot drag them into the court because they have the immunity under Article 53 and 154. So that is a control, a separation of powers. Judiciary cannot catch them and bring to the court and do anything which is against that. So there is a separation of powers. Article 361, the president or the governor shall not be answerable to any court for the exercise and performance of the powers and duties of his office. The president and governor is given again there is an immunity. There is a, you cannot ask the president or the governor to come and explain why this has happened. Why this has happened, why you are using the office in this way. So their powers and duties cannot be questioned before a court of law. Obviously, the executive functions are being challenged. You cannot, you don't mix up with those. This is the president or the governor's functions. That is not challenged. They cannot be called for challenged by the civil and criminal courts or the judiciary. So legislature, I have already told you that the Council of Ministers is selected from the legislature, and this council is responsible for the legislature. The legislature exercising judicial powers in case of breach of its privileges, impeachment of the president under Article 61 and removal of deputies. Now we are telling about some overlapping functions. Legislature is having some judicial powers. How? In case of breach of its privileges, it can exercise, it can conduct a trial, it can use the judicial powers using the impeachment of president he can do. The judges can be removed under Article 61. They have the powers, what you call punishment powers also under Article 105(3). So this is some powers which are exercised by the legislature over the, which is like it is a some sort of a power which is exercised by the legislature over the other wing, that is the judiciary. So there is an overlapping. Executive, the President of India, who is the supreme executive authority in India, the nominal executive, exercise lawmaking power in the form of ordinance making power. You know, ordinance, promulgation of ordinances. It is not a parliamentary, even though the parliament has to approve the ordinance if it wants to convert it to law. But in emergency situations, and as per the constitutional provisions, the president has the power to come out with the ordinances as per the advice of the Prime Minister and the Council of Ministers. So the Prime Minister and the Council of Ministers has the power to come out with the ordinances. They will put up the ordinance, and the president, as the real nominal executive, will sign the ordinances. So that is a lawmaking power. It is a legislative function, but the legislative function is with the parliament. So now the president is, as an executive head, he is using the legislative powers. So this is one exception, or what we call an overlapping. The President of India, being the nominal head executive, can make the law under the lawmaking power, that is ordinance making power under Article 123. There is a judicial function also. You know, he has some pardoning powers. He has the clemency powers. So these are the powers under which he can do, like he can use the pardoning powers. So after the Supreme Court judgment also, it will go to the President for the final. So there is some sort of a judicial power being exercised by him. He can consult the Supreme Court of India under Article 143. So reference matters. So he has the powers to some sort of judicial functions he is exercising. And executive also affects the functioning of the judiciary by making appointments to the office of Chief Justice of India and other duties. You know, the judges are being appointed. Executive is coming into play. So here also that overlapping or the powers exercised by the executive over the judiciary, that also is coming into play. Now, judiciary. What are the judicial? Where all judiciary is overlapping? The judiciary exercises few legislative and executive functions under Article 145. The rule-making function of the judiciary, where it performs the role of executive. Article 142, you know, the law of the land. So the judgments of the apex court is the law of the land, 142. So these things are some sort of a law-making power. The legislative functions, what we call, which is being used by the judiciary. A judiciary is using the law-making powers, or it asks for the rule-making function under Article 145. So executive function, rule-making is always executive. 142, that is a legislative function. Overlapping is there here also. And you know the Constitution Amendment. It's also subject to scrutiny of the court. So that also can be considered as a legislative function. And the court can declare any amendment void if it changes the basic structure of the Constitution. That is very clear from the various judgments. Just we will go through some important judgments where this judicial pronouncements enunciating the separation of powers. That is in Ram Javaya Kapoor versus State of Punjab, Supreme Court, held that Indian Constitution has not recognized the doctrine in its absolute rigidity, but the different functions of the different branches of the government have been sufficiently differentiated, and consequently it can be very well said that our Constitution doesn't contemplate that the functions of one organ essentially belong to another. So it gives a broader outlook. Like, see, the Constitution is very clear. X is the function of one wing, Y is the function of another wing, Z is the function of the third wing. Is sufficiently differentiated. You cannot equate it to the UK. UK, you don't have the constitution, written constitution. But in India, it is written. So the constitution speaks about this power being done by the legislative, this power being done by the executive, and this is the power of the judiciary. So it is very clear, and there is no such like the separation of power is clearly, you can see it is the visibility, the optics is, or the optics is very clear that the separation of powers is there as per the Constitution of India. If you see Indira Gandhi versus Raj Narayan, that is 75 Supreme Court, it was mentioned that even in Indian Constitution there is separation of powers in a broad sense only. You see Ram Javaya Kapoor, they are telling the same thing in broader sense. If you see the Constitution, there is a separation of powers, and the Raj Narayan case also, it is told that the separation of powers is in a broad sense only, but they have gone little bit deeper. What they have told, a rigid separation of powers as under the American Constitution or under the Australian Constitution does not apply to India. So that is what Raj Narayan has told. In this Raj Narayan case, Supreme Court has gone a step down from Ram Javaya Kapoor and told that even though separation of powers is there as per the Constitution, it cannot be a rigid one, as you can see in America and Australia. Keshavananda Bharati added to that, what is mentioned is separation of powers is a part of the basic structure of the Constitution. So you cannot take it out. It is a basic structure. None of the three separate organs of the Republic can take over the functions assigned to the other. This scheme of the Constitution cannot be changed even by resorting to Article 368 of the Constitution. You cannot amend it. You cannot amend the basic structure. It's very clear from that. So, separation of powers is there. That is very clear. India has a written constitution. The separation of powers is very much there. However, Raj Narayan case, Supreme Court has told that it is in a broad sense only. You go down, you see, it cannot be as rigid as the separation of powers which you can see in US or UK, US or Australian constitution. But in Keshavananda Bharati, the court has told that separation of powers is a basic structure. So that is also very important, that you cannot remove it. Separation of powers. See, Golaknath case, the court has told that the constitution brought different constitutional entities into existence, namely the union, the state, the union territories. It created three major instruments of power, namely the legislature, the executive, and the judiciary. There is minute demarcation amongst the three, and they are expected to exercise their respective powers without overstepping their limits. So do it. Your powers are very much clear. You have the powers written in the constitution. Do it as per the instruction in the books. So that is what Golaknath has told. But as per the law, if the constitution is giving the powers where there is an overlap, there it is not unconstitutional. It is constitutional only. So there is no sort of overstepping if you are doing it as per the constitution. But there should not be anything other than that. So whatever is the overstepping which is given as per the constitution, that is constitutional. Whatever other things are there, you cannot overstep. So doctrine of separation of powers is limited to that extent. In Bandhuwa Mukti Morcha versus Union of India, that is 84 Supreme Court, the court has told the constitution envisages a broad division of the power of state between the legislature, the executive, and the judiciary. Although the division is not precisely demarcated, there is general acknowledgement of its limits. The limits can be gathered from the written text of the constitution, from the conventions and from constitutional practice, and from an entire array of judicial decisions. See, Bandhuwa Mukti Morcha has made it little bit more liberal. I see Golaknath, the court has told there is minute demarcation, and you are supposed to exercise the powers as per the whatever is written there. But if you see, Bandhuwa Mukti Morcha has told the limits can be, what are the limits? What are your limits? What is the limit of the executive? What is the limit of the legislature? What is the limit of the judiciary? Where you can find it? From the written text of the constitution. Then you go to the conventions and constitutional practice, and from an entire array of judicial decisions. So precedents. So all these three factors you take into, and then you can find out what is your limitation, what is your boundary, where you can overstep, where you can function as per the limits. So there is no clear demarcation. It is again being changed, but the fact remains that as per Keshavananda Bharati judgment, separation of powers is the basic structure of the constitution. So if it is a basic structure, you cannot change it. The concept of separation of power remains with the Indian system. Indian parliamentary system acknowledges the separation of powers as per the constitution, and as per the Bandhuwa Mukti Morcha, you have to see the conventions and constitutional practice as well as the judicial decisions also, to see how much you can go. So so if you see, basically based on these judicial pronouncements, so Mallikarjuna versus one more judgment, Mallikarjuna versus state of Andhra Pradesh. Andhra Pradesh Administrative Tribunal directed the state government to evolve proper and rational method of determination of seniority among the veterinary surgeons in the matters of promotions to the next higher rank of assistant director of veterinary surgeons. The Supreme Court quashed the aforesaid direction and observed that the power under Article 309 of the Constitution to frame rules is a legislative power, which has to be exercised by the President or the Governor of the state as the case may be. The High Court or administrative tribunals cannot issue a mandate to the state government to legislate. There was some sort of overlapping which was not constitutional. The court told that you cannot go for making laws, rules. You cannot ask the government to make the rules. It is a legislative matter, and the government or they have to do it. You cannot, the court or the administrative tribunals cannot issue a mandate to the state government. It's an executive function to legislate on any matter. In this way, the principle of restraint prevents any organ. So there is an overlap. The court will step into and it will tell that it is not your function. You do the other one. It is not supposed to be done by you. Supreme Court Employees Welfare Association Union of India said that no court can issue a direction to a legislature to enact a particular law. Neither it can direct an executive authority to enact a law, which has been empowered to do under the delegated legislative authority. So it's very clear. The court doesn't have that much power to direct a legislature or an executive authority to enact a law because of the separation of powers. It has to be very clear. It should not be unconstitutional. It should be as per the. Now we'll go to the exceptions which are seen in the doctrine of separation of powers in India. In India, there exists a functional and personal overlapping amongst the wings of the government. The Supreme Court has the power to strike down laws passed by the legislature, actions taken by the executive. They are in contravention of the constitution. Executive started making laws. Supreme Court cannot accept it. They have the power to strike down. The president, executive head of the country, has law-making powers by virtue of ordinance-making power and the clemency powers. I told you the pardoning powers of the president. It's called the clemency powers. It can make the power legislative function executed by done by the president. It is the ordinance-making power. It will exercise a judicial power when you are going for the clemency powers. The legislature, apart from the exercising its lawmaking powers, exercise judicial control in case of breach of privileges provided to the legislators, impeachment of the president and judges. So, control of the legislature over the judicial authorities. You cannot, this impeachment of the president and judges. There is a breach of privileges provided to the legislatures. All I have already covered. The executive wing also affects the functioning of the judiciary by making appointments to the office of the chief justice and other judges of the high courts and lower judiciary. So, executive has the power to make appointments to the office of the chief justice. I have already deliberated. So, these are the exceptions. What are the separation of powers in India and how, to what extent it is being used, and to what extent it is legal, and to what extent it is accepted by the courts. All those things are very clear. So, if you go. So, if you see, if I want to conclude the session, I'll just take you through this different systems which we have seen. First, we have seen the American system. The presidential form. It has a written constitution which is rigid. Everything is written. The executive is the president, who is the real executive. He exercises the executive functions. He has the secretaries or his subordinates. He can appoint the secretaries of the states, but he is not bound by their advices. He has the power to accept or reject their advices, but he has the power to execute. So executive function is controlled by the president. The parliament, the Congress is holding the legislative functions, and Supreme Court is holding the judicial functions. So, but there are some, I told you, there are two concepts. One is presidential form and second is the principle of checks and balances. That's the checks and balances. Like, you cannot give the full powers to the president. President appointing higher officials or treaties, entering into treaties. It has to be supported or accepted by the, the Senate. So, there is a checks and balance. When the judicial officers are being appointed by the executive and accepted by the Senate. So, there is overlapping. Then you have the Congress appointing, doing some executive functions, the legislature doing some executive functions, like controlling the sanctioning of the bills, sanctioning of the finance matters, the money to the different committees. So, there is a use of the legislature, executive power by the legislature. So, there is overlapping, but these are all measures which are done to control. There is a checks and balance being applied by the executive on the legislature, legislature on the executive, executive on the judiciary, like that. Why it is done? To safeguard the liberty. So separation of powers is there, but there are some sort of overlapping or checks and balances being done. But if you see the American Constitution, it is very rigid and very clear. But if you go to France also, I have told, there is a separation of powers concept, but it is being used very liberally. Separation of powers is there, but there is no strict form of what you call the separation of powers. There is a flexibility in using that. The legislature, executive and judiciary, they are having powers which are being used in a limited manner, but there is no rigid system of that. You go to UK, the parliamentary form, it's in the very what you call most flexible manner. You can see the separation of powers. The concept is there, but you don't have a written constitution. You don't have the what you call written law. So the judiciary, executive, and the legislature has a lot of overlapping powers. Concept of separation of powers is very, what you call, you see the least in Britain or the UK system. And you come to India, you have a mixed system, like you have the parliamentary form, but you have the written constitution, and the law has been evolving. The court has told, Supreme Court has told in so many cases that the separation of powers is the basic structure. You cannot change it. However, it can be exercised to the limit what is written in the constitution, in the conventions, what you call the constitutional practices, and the precedents. So you cannot use it in a, you cannot see what you have understood from this is the separation of powers, the concept is required. However, it should not be very rigorous. It should be flexible. That elasticity of approach should be there, as Justice Cardoso has told. Even though there is a what you call separation of power concept, it should not be used in a very strict manner. It should be, there should be an flexibility in approach, what is to respond to the requirement of the government, the necessities which come, which may arise in future, which you cannot predict as of now. So that is, some sort of control should be there of each branch over the other branch. That is a principle of checks and balances. So what I have wanted to convey was separation of powers concept is there. This is for what you call safeguarding the liberty of the people, to avoid tyranny, but it should be used in a very flexible manner. And that is why the doctrine of separation of powers in the strict sense is undesirable and impracticable, but it has to be required. It is required to be enforced to safeguard the liberty of the country. So that way it has not been accepted fully in any country, but to an extent it has been accepted and it is being implemented. So with this today I am closing my presentation. Over to Pravina.
Thank you so much, sir. Thank you. It was a very wonderful session, sir. I really admire your time management, sir. Although we lost around 25 minutes for the review, you have completed the topic within the time. I think you have taken around 5 minutes extra, sir. Thank you so much, sir.
Yeah. Thank you.
Participants, if you have any doubt or if you have to add anything to this, you can do it now.
ചെറിയ സംശയമാണ്, അതായത് ഹലോ സാർ സാറേ ചെറിയൊരു സംശയം, ഈ ചെക്സ് ആൻഡ് ബാലൻസ് ഉള്ളപ്പോൾ തന്നെ നമ്മുടെ ജുഡീഷ്യറിയുടെ ഇൻഡിപെൻഡൻസ് ഒരു പ്രധാനപ്പെട്ട കാര്യമല്ലേ? ചെക്സ് ആൻഡ് ബാലൻസ് ഉള്ളപ്പോൾ തന്നെ ഈ ജുഡീഷ്യറി ഇൻഡിപെൻഡൻസ്
ഏത് രാജ്യത്തെ ഉദ്ദേശിക്കുന്നത്? ഓൾ ഫോംസ്
അമേരിക്കയാണ് പ്രധാനമായിട്ട് ഉദ്ദേശിക്കുന്നത്. അവിടെ
checks and balances, it is not that you are given an absolute right for checks and balances to a limited extent only. It is not that absolute rights are there, judiciary is being controlled or the judicial appointments are made. അതിലെല്ലാം ഒരു ലിമിറ്റഡ് എക്സ്റ്റെന്റിലേ ഉള്ളൂ ആ ഒരു കൺട്രോൾ ആൻഡ് ബാലൻസ്. ഇറ്റ് ഇസ് നോട്ട് ദാറ്റ് അബ്സല്യൂട്ട് പവേഴ്സ് ആർ ഗിവൺ. എങ്കിൽ പിന്നെ വീണ്ടും അത് ടൈറനി ആയിട്ട് മാറും അല്ലേ? അപ്പോൾ ഇറ്റ് ഈസ് നോട്ട് ദാറ്റ് യു ആർ ഗിവിംഗ് എ ഫുൾ അതോറിറ്റി ടു ഇന്റർഫിയർ ഇൻ ദ ജുഡീഷ്യൽ ഫങ്ഷൻസ്, ഓർ ജുഡീഷ്യറി ഈസ് ഗിവൻ എ ഫുൾ പവർ ടു ഇന്റർഫിയർ ഇൻ ദ എക്സിക്യൂട്ടീവ് ആൻഡ് ദ ലെജിസ്ലേറ്റീവ് ഫങ്ഷൻസ്. However, as per the constitution, whatever is given, that is time tested and it is approved. Even courts have also accepted it, right? So angane varumbo you cannot tell that it is overlapping to what you call a tyrannical level. Appo aa oru level like pogunnilla. It is there that you have the what you call checks and balances, but it is for the welfare. What is the interest of the principle of separation of powers in it. ഒരു എക്സെപ്ഷൻ ആയിട്ട് വരുന്ന ഈ ചെക്സ് ആൻഡ് ബാലൻസസ് ഇറ്റ് ഈസ് ഷുഡ് നോട്ട് വാട്ട് യു കോൾ ഡിഫീറ്റ് ദ ഇൻട്രസ്റ്റ് അല്ലെ? ആ ഒരു അൾട്ടിമേറ്റ് എയിം ഡിഫീറ്റ് ചെയ്യാൻ പാടില്ല. എന്തിനാണ് ഇത് കൊണ്ടുവരുന്നതെന്ന് നമ്മൾ പറഞ്ഞു, എന്തുകൊണ്ടാണ് ഈ ചെക്സ് ആൻഡ് ബാലൻസസ് വരുന്നതെന്ന് പറഞ്ഞു. ഒരു ബാലൻസ് ഇതിന്റെ ഒരു വാട്ട് യു കോൾ ഒരു ഒപ്റ്റിമം ലെവലിൽ നിൽക്കണം, എങ്കിൽ മാത്രമേ ഒരു വെൽഫെയർ സ്റ്റേറ്റ് കണ്ടിന്യൂ ചെയ്ത് പോകാൻ പറ്റുള്ളൂ. Are you satisfied? Hello?
Yes, sir.
Yeah, anybody else?
സർ, സെപ്പറേഷൻ ഓഫ് പവർ ഇൻ UK ഇല്ലേ, അതില് ലെജിസ്ലേച്ചേഴ്സിന്റെ പവറിലല്ലേ ഹൗസ് ഓഫ് ലോർഡും ഹൗസ് ഓഫ് കോമണും വരുന്നത്. അപ്പോ ഈ ഹൗസ് ഓഫ് ലോർഡ് എപ്പോഴാ സർ അത് ജുഡീഷ്യറിയുടെ കൂടെ ഇത് ഓവർലാപ്പിംഗ് ആയിട്ട് വരുന്നുണ്ടല്ലോ, അപ്പൊ അവർ സെപ്പറേറ്റ് ആയിട്ട് ഇരിക്കുകയാണോ ചെയ്യുന്നത്, അല്ലെങ്കിൽ ജുഡീഷ്യറിന്റെ പിന്നെ ഇന്റർഫിയർ ഓവർലാപ്പ് ചെയ്തിട്ടാണോ അവര് ആ ഒരു ഡിസിഷൻ പറയുക?
ഓവർലാപ്പ് ചെയ്യുന്നുണ്ട്, അതായത് ജുഡീഷ്യൽ പവേഴ്സ് അവിടെ അവർ എക്സസൈസ് ചെയ്യുന്നുണ്ട് അവിടെ. As I have told you, UK system എന്ന് പറഞ്ഞാൽ ഇറ്റ്സ് നോട്ട് എ വെരി ക്ലിയർ കട്ട് സിസ്റ്റം അല്ലെ? സെപ്പറേഷൻ ഓഫ് പവേഴ്സ് ഏറ്റവും വീക്ക് ആയിട്ട് കാണുന്നത് UK-യിലാണ്. UK-യിലെ ഹൗസ് ഓഫ് ലോർഡ്സ് ഈവൻ ദോ ഇറ്റ് ഇസ് കൺസിഡർഡ് ആസ് ഹയസ്റ്റ് കോർട്ട്, അത് ഹയസ്റ്റ് കോർട്ടായിട്ടാണ് പറയുന്നത്. പക്ഷെ അങ്ങനെയാണെങ്കിൽ കൂടി അവിടെ ഒരു ഓവർലാപ്പിംഗ് വരുന്നുണ്ട്. They have the judicial function as well as the legislative function also. It is there, overlapping is there.
Okay sir, thank you.
Thank you.
സാർ, ആ സെമി പ്രസിഡൻഷ്യൽ സിസ്റ്റം ഒന്ന് പറയൂ സാർ, അതൊന്നും വ്യക്തമായില്ല.
സെമി പ്രസിഡൻഷ്യൽ സിസ്റ്റം, പ്രസിഡൻഷ്യൽ സിസ്റ്റത്തിൽ നമ്മൾ എന്താ പറയുന്നത്, പ്രസിഡന്റ് ഈസ് ദ റിയൽ എക്സിക്യൂട്ടീവ് അല്ലെ? അമേരിക്കയിൽ ഇപ്പൊ നോക്കുകയാണെങ്കിൽ അമേരിക്കൻ പ്രസിഡന്റ് ആണ് എക്സിക്യൂട്ടീവ്, റിയൽ എക്സിക്യൂട്ടീവ്. അവിടെ ഇപ്പോ പാർലമെന്ററി സിസ്റ്റത്തിൽ നോക്കുകയാണെങ്കിൽ there is a nominal executive and a real executive അല്ലെ? ഇപ്പൊ ഇന്ത്യൻ സിസ്റ്റം എടുക്കുകയാണെങ്കിൽ ഇന്ത്യൻ പ്രസിഡന്റ് നോമിനൽ എക്സിക്യൂട്ടീവ് ആണ്. റിയൽ എക്സിക്യൂട്ടീവ് പവർ is with the prime minister and the council of ministers. പക്ഷേ സെമി പ്രസിഡൻഷ്യൽ സിസ്റ്റത്തില് ഈ പ്രസിഡന്റും ഉണ്ടാവും, പ്രൈം മിനിസ്റ്ററും ഉണ്ടാവും, ഈ കൗൺസിൽ ഓഫ് മിനിസ്റ്റേഴ്സും ഉണ്ടാവും. ഈ പ്രസിഡന്റ് ഈസ് ഓൾസോ പവർഫുൾ. ഇറ്റ് ഇസ് നോട്ട് ദാറ്റ് ഈസ് എ ഡമ്മി ഓർ നോമിനൽ ആണെന്നുള്ള ഒരു കൺസെപ്റ്റ് അല്ല. അവിടെ പ്രസിഡൻഷ്യൽ പവറും ഉണ്ട്, പ്രൈം മിനിസ്റ്റർ ആൻഡ് കൗൺസിൽ ഓഫ് മിനിസ്റ്റേഴ്സിനും അവരുടെ പവർ ഉണ്ട്. അതാണ് ആ ഡിഫറൻസ് വരുന്നത്. ഈ നേരത്തെ ഉള്ളതില് ഇപ്പൊ അമേരിക്കൻ പ്രസിഡന്റ് ഈസ് നോട്ട് ആൻസറബിൾ ഓർ ഈസ് നോട്ട് അക്കൗണ്ടബിൾ ടു ദ ലെജിസ്ലേച്ചർ. കാരണം ലെജിസ്ലേച്ചർ എക്സിക്യൂട്ടീവ് എൻ്റയർലി ഡിഫറെന്റ് ആണ്. പാർലമെന്ററി ഫോമിലാണെങ്കിലോ പ്രൈം മിനിസ്റ്റർ എന്ന് പറഞ്ഞാൽ ഹു ഇസ് റിയൽ എക്സിക്യൂട്ടീവ് ഈസ് എ മെമ്പർ ഓഫ് ദ ലെജിസ്ലേച്ചർ. അതേസമയം സെമി പ്രസിഡൻഷ്യൽ ഫോമില് ഈ പ്രസിഡന്റ് ഇഫ് യു ഇക്വേറ്റ് ഇറ്റ് വിത്ത് ദ പ്രസിഡൻഷ്യൽ ഫോം ഹി ഈസ് ആൻസറബിൾ ടു ദ ലെജിസ്ലേച്ചർ. വേറെ അമേരിക്കൻ പ്രസിഡന്റിന് അവിടെ ഇത് വരുന്നത്. അപ്പോൾ ഈ ഫ്രാൻസിലെ സിസ്റ്റം നമ്മൾ എടുക്കുകയാണെങ്കിൽ സെമി പ്രസിഡൻഷ്യൽ ഫോമില് ഈസ് ഓൾസോ പവർഫുൾ, ഈസ് നോട്ട് എ ഡമ്മി പ്രസിഡന്റ് ലൈക്ക് ഇൻ UK-യിലെ സിസ്റ്റം ഓഫ് നോമിനൽ മൊണാർക്കോ അല്ലെങ്കിൽ ഇന്ത്യൻ സിസ്റ്റം ഓഫ് പ്രസിഡന്റ് ആണെങ്കിൽ അതിനേക്കാളും കൂടുതൽ പവർഫുൾ ആണ് ഫ്രാൻസിലെ. അപ്പോൾ there are some powers given to the French president also and the prime minister also and the council of ministers. Okay.
Any more questions? I think no, sir. so we can wind up the session, sir. Thank you so much, sir. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you, Ranjit sir. Thank you very much.
Thank you, sir.
Okay, thank you very much.